I mean, being a chancellor, everyone says, oh, you have the hardest job in the city. Absolutely not. Being a teacher, a good teacher to kids in low-income schools is the hardest thing that you can do.
And so much is at stake. Has any other urban school district used the green tier, red tier?
No.
So you're trying it out for the first time.
Yes.
So it's it all rests on you. Whether and is there any, and I'm sure you've already done this, just saying, why don't we try it out? We can go back if it doesn't work. I mean, are you open to that? Is it like?
Well, this is a contract for a specified number of years.
How many years?
This is a 5-year
5 years. So that's a long time.
Well, I don't want to have to go through this again.
Well, and there'll be and there'll be an election in the meantime for the mayor too.
That's
so
right.
you sort of need it to work.
So, what we're going to do is try it out for the term of this contract. And I believe at the end of the day that that the teachers and the fears that they have will actually be very, very much calmed when they actually see how this is happening and how it's implemented, and they'll be reaping the benefits of it as well.
What's happening every day that it's not happening though? I mean, the schools in session now.
Schools in session. I mean, the biggest downside, honestly, is not to the school district, but to the teachers who haven't had a raise.
But is it distracting them?
I think for some people, especially with the tough economic times right now, people are a little bit more skittish about.
Does that work in your favor to get them to say, let's sit down and get this done?
I mean, I don't look at it from the sort of the negotiation angle at all, but what I will say is that I very much feel for the teachers who, are emailing me on a daily basis saying, look, gas costs $4 a gallon right now. I need to make sure that we have this raise in hand, and I want to be eligible for these bonuses. Can you please hurry?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of teachers who are saying, well, if the WT doesn't take this forward, can we start our own teachers union, and can you give us the raises, and can we go on the red and green tier? And I'm like, no, that's not exactly how collective bargaining works.
Speaking of money, you are paying students to come to school. It's a very interesting program. It's not only here, it's been tried elsewhere, but it is for the first time being tried here, and it's funded in part by foundation through Harvard, and it's a program out of Harvard, and then there's some DC money too?
There's some, no local dollars, no local school dollars.
But the basic premise is it's 8th graders?
Actually, it is 6th through 8th graders.
Oh, so the whole middle school.
The whole middle school.
And how many schools?
We are in 14 schools.
And it just started.
Just started this week.
And they get paid $2, I think, for a point.
For a point, that's right.
For a variety of different grading scales.
That's right.
And that money goes into a bank account.
SunTrust bank account.
And it's in the child's name.
Correct.
And what's to prevent? How are they? Can they just go take money out at will?
Yes.
They can.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any guidelines for how it can be used?
No.
They can spend it any.
They can spend it any
So
way
if
they
mom
want.
says, "I want you to bring that money home tonight and give it to me," they.
I mean, I can't comment on the family dynamics that might exist.
I'm giving a worst case scenario.
That's one of the
obviously.
reasons why, though, we made them child-centered accounts, because we did not want the adults to be able to go out and take the money out of the account without the child knowing. So the child has to be present, and this is something.
It's a sort of a reverse custodial account.
Right. And it was interesting because we actually we had a couple of bank partners who were interested in partnering with us, and a lot of them said, well, we're not going to be able to do this child-centered thing. It's just too complicated with the Patriot Act and that sort of thing. And finally, SunTrust was able to do this, and we thought it was important because, a lot of our kids are in situations, where they are the ones who have to, if they're doing the things that are resulting in the money being put in the bank account, then they should be able to control that. And there was one story that the Harvard folks had of a kid in New York who used the money to buy a bus ticket to get out of an abusive family relationship and take the bus to his grandmother's house in South Carolina. So we thought it was really important to do that, but we also do have a really heavy financial literacy component that is tied to the bank accounts, which SunTrust is leading, where they're going to talk to the kids about you know, why it's important to save. They've actually started out the accounts for the kids with a deposit for them. So they've been great partners.
Is the bank giving them interest?
Yeah.
Now, was this the age group that was thought to be the most likely to absorb this in a positive way?
The initial data from New York showed that for the 4th graders that they tried it with in New York last year, it wasn't as effective, but with the 7th graders, it was extraordinarily effective. And what we know is that middle school is just such an important time for kids. It's when all of
the least of which is puberty.
I know, but it's when all their sort of ideas about education sort of become
they cross that bridge,
crystallized, right? And it's where we lose a lot of kids. I mean, the research shows that the majority of kids who drop out of high school make the decision to do so before they enter the 9th grade. So it's we just felt that, you know, one, because of the time period that kids are and their ideas about education are being formulated in middle school, and the other thing is that the achievement levels of our middle schoolers are woefully low. You know, of our 8th graders in this city, only 12% of them are on grade level in reading and 8% on grade level in math, according to the NAEP exam, which is the lowest of any other urban school district in the country.
If this works, are you going to have to give them raises next year? Raises the following year?
I don't know, but hopefully there'll be an easier negotiation than the teachers' union.
And also on the subject of money, you're in addition to everything else you're doing, you're taking on a very big project of sort of rebuilding the infrastructure of the schools.
Yeah.
You are renovating some. Are you building some from scratch?
A couple, but what we are doing is trying to avoid some of the mistakes that the district has made in the past. Mistakes like, I don't know if anyone knows Dunbar High School, but apparently it was once a beautiful building. They completely raised it, and they built this open space high school, which is, if you go into it now, the most insane building that you would ever want to see.
Meaning you love it?
No,
oh.
we don't love it. And so what should have happened was that the old building should have been restored. And so what Alan Liu and his team is doing is they've completely revamped the master facility plan. The original master facility plan that he inherited said, you know, over the course of 15 years, here's what we're going to do to modernize every school. But if you were on the short end of the stick, you could potentially have kids who would go through the entire system in these incredibly dismal conditions. And so what he's done is said, within 5 years, we are going to modernize and renovate every single school in this district. And that's something that I think people can really hold on to.
One thing I notice is that most DC schools look like you wouldn't want to go into them even if somebody was paying you to. And what do you think a 21st century urban school should be like and look like?
I would say if you would go into any of the schools that Alan and his team renovated over the course of this summer, Francis, which is actually not far from here, is a perfect example of that. They completely
is Hardy one of them?
Because Hardy is one
of them.
Hardy
looks very good.
But Hardy was done sort of over a long period of time. Francis was actually done over the summer. And if you go into that school now, it looks great. You can,
I don't think we can.
You can go in. The classrooms look great. You know, one of the little kids when I was at Francis the other day, he pulled on my sleeve and he said, "This school is so much better than our other school was."